Nick Robbins, CEO, returning home, and my friend Jim Moore. He has been enlightening us in each of these sessions, and we're really excited that he's again here with us today for session 6. So it's rights and responsibilities. Um, what's our part of the parenting? And so this is a good one, and so we're just gonna jump into slide 14. So if you guys need to pause it to get up to slide 14, that's gonna be our focus here today. This is a big piece. And so we're excited that we're here to talk about it. So we're gonna spend some time exploring the responsibilities as dads, including how they're morally, emotionally, and financially responsible to their children. And so the first one, morally, we need to first understand what that means. So as a parent, your moral responsibilities to your children can encompass, a lot of different things. So it could be education. It could be modeling values. It can be encouragement of social skills. So like there's morals that we need to impart on our children, and raising your kids, when you think of like social skills and modeling values and educating them to understand life, what would that look like for you?
It all starts with a spiritual walk. There's got to be that relationship with Christ. There's got to be that relationship with God, because there are no morals without Him. If without the Lord, it's amoral.
Yeah.
Because it's just anything that you want to believe, anything that you've been taught. There are no rules, there are no morals, and that's just wrong. And you can see that in children today that just grow up and they're just adults to where, it doesn't matter what anybody says or what the laws say. I'm going to do what I want to do. So number one, it all starts, I think, with spiritual responsibility. Number two, there's just a basic sense of right and wrong. We've got to be able to teach our kids, man, black and white, A, B, C. I mean, just there are things that are acceptable and there are things that are not acceptable. And we've got to really be able to be concrete, black and white. These are the issues that you've got to be able to say yes to. These are the issues you've got to be able to say no to. I don't care what kind of temptation it is. That goes back to community with guys. We've got to have community where we have those guys we can go to. And also it's the same thing about with our kids. We need to make sure that the kids that are around them are a positive influence. Yeah. So, get to know not only your children's friends, but their parents, to make sure that, those are the kind of kids you want your kids hanging around with. So all these other things are subtitles about financial responsibility, just right or wrong. But it all starts with just a foundation of right or wrong, and that comes from having an ultimate foundation of a relationship with God.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Like there's a saying that if somebody comes and asks you, hey, you want to smoke a cigarette, and you say, and you're a smoker, to say, I'm trying to quit, or I don't smoke. So like you've made a determination. You've taught them how to treat you. Like, oh, I'll never offer him. He said he doesn't smoke. I'll never offer him a cigarette again. And so in life, we're teaching people how to treat us. And what's so important when we are modeling these values, like we could be telling our kids, hey, do this. This is the right thing. Treat this person the right way. And then when they see how we treat their mom,
yeah,
that's us modeling.
Yeah.
So we're not on last week communication. We're on this week of what's action? Action. What are you modeling? What values are you bringing to the table? Because we're not talking about words you're going to give them. We're talking about how you're going to lead your family. And I'm very convicted on the social skills side of things. So I struggle with social anxiety, and my poor boys they are draped in it now. Like they can't have conversations with people for the life of them. And it was because when we were with family, we were just doing things with family. It wasn't like other families we had invited, people in. And what's funny is like, that's how my parents were. They'd be like, yeah. I mean, if we went to church every Wednesday and Sunday, whoever knew was there, they were coming back to our house to eat. Like my mom made sure of it. And I would just be like, oh my gosh, who is this new person? Now you want me to talk to them? They're your same age. I may know this person from school and not like them at all.
Yeah.
Like my mom didn't care. Like you're gonna treat that person a certain way, and so how I raised my boys is like, hey, if you don't like that person, just don't talk to them. And so we not only got to model our values, but then we got to model effective communication in society and like how to go back and forth with people. And I was listening to this podcast as I was driving here, and this guy, he's like a social capital guy, and he goes, my kid, when he would answer the phone, be like, huh, and I would hang up, and he'd call me and be like, why'd you hang up? And like, why didn't you say hello? And he's like, this may sound dumb, but that's really important that you know how to greet people.
Yeah.
It's really important how you need to carry yourself in conversations.
Yeah.
And he just small things like that. He just like, whoa, hold up, what are we doing? So he'd say, and my younger son is this way. He goes, I couldn't even watch a movie with my kids, so I used to make them put their phones away and be like, the only thing we're gonna do tonight is watch a movie together.
Yeah.
So for the next 8 hours, you're not gonna have any phones, and when this movie starts, you're gonna be locked in because you have nothing else taking your attention. And he goes, I did that. Not that I cared necessarily what the movie was about, but it was that I need you to be able to sit in one place for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And just be still.
Yeah.
Not have to be, charged up and, watching TikTok and everything that's like 30 seconds. Because I need, his big thing is I need you to know how to have a conversation. I need you to know how to just be next to somebody and just be.
Yeah.
And, it's funny is when I grew up, you went to the movies. That was the only place you could go on a date, because all you had to tell your mom was, hey, my buddy is meeting me at the movie theater. Can you drop me off? And then the girl you like would just tell her dad, hey, my girlfriend's meeting at the movie theater. And like no one actually went into the movie theater and saw who you were talking to or sitting with. And so I grew up dating in the movies.
Yeah.
And so like that was our time together, and we'd whisper or whatever, and so to think now that my boys couldn't make it to a movie, their life depended on it. Like they just couldn't stay that focused. So that's a rant on some issues with social skills that I forced on my kids. Emotionally, we talked a little bit about that, about having to have empathy, and so we won't go really deep in emotionally, but again, just touch on the idea that if you can kind of briefly talk about when we're thinking of emotionally engaging in relationships in the world, like what is the thing that we can impart onto our children?
There's a statement that says, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And so I would tell the dads, man, that's a hard issue.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine a dad being so hard-hearted that he just doesn't care about his kids.
Right.
But there has to be a daily exercise or a regular exercise, regardless of what that might be, whether it's, like you said, just being.
Yeah.
Just being. It's not like you got to do something. Just be with them.
Yeah.
Be who they need. There's got to be those seeds planted, guys, so when we are trying to raise our kids and raise our family, they've truly got to know that you care. And if you don't care, man, you got to do whatever you need to do to soften your heart, get in the Word, do whatever. But caring is such a big part, because, again, your kids don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Man, that's awesome. I'll just briefly touch on the last topic, financially. There is a time and place for adult conversations with children, and so I definitely think when it comes to finances, one, we need to provide for our kids, but I also think, and I'm sure every dad agrees, but I also think we need to teach them about finances. And one of the things that we did really early on, just to get the boys to start to wrap their head around like understanding what things cost, we brought the electric bill and sat it down in front of them, and we said, all right, on average, here's how much the electric bill is. If it is under that amount, I will make up the difference and give it to you in cash. And so they then learned how much electric costs, what electric was. You had to explain it to them. That's what's working the TV, man. And so, like, you're explaining to them. And next thing you know, lights are going off.
Yeah.
TV's not on all day. They're asking, like, how we doing? Like, is the bill in yet? You know, in their mind, they already got things they're wanting to buy. And it was just a small glimpse of what bills are, because I left my parents' home at 15, went to my aunt and uncle's, turned 16, was out on my own. Guess what I was not prepared to do at 16? Pay any bills. Like, I understood that there was bills, but I just didn't know, like, hey, you get this paycheck. Well, rent's not coming for another 2 weeks, but you got to save a portion of that paycheck because your one paycheck isn't going to cover everything. And so, like, I was just never taught that because I wasn't in the home long enough to have those conversations. And so as my boys got older, we would sit down and we'd lay out our budget. Like, I wanted them to see what it was.
Yeah.
And I wanted them to know what it was, and I wanted them to understand what things cost. And then we went to, like, as they got older, we said, hey, we don't buy you guys anything unless it's like back to school clothes, it's your birthday, or it's Christmas. Outside of that, start saving your money. And then they'd be like, well, how do I have money? I was like, there are things I don't want to do, and there's a value I'll pay you to do them. And that's how the world works.
Yeah.
And you need to find your place in the world and find what people don't want to do, and you jump in and do it so that you can have the things you want. Because I'm always going to provide for your needs until you're old enough to do it yourself. But the wants, that's on you, man. And so I've always felt that was very important because it was a huge struggle of mine. I mean, I went to prison for 2 armed robberies, stole $1,700 to pay my bills. I wasn't to buy drugs with. It was like I wouldn't have a roof over my head if I didn't do. In my mind, I thought that was my only option. Instead, if I would have learned how to manage my money and the importance of working and paying bills on time, like I didn't have to go to prison for 7.5 years, but I did because of the choices I made, and I wanted to equip my children so that they don't have. So it wasn't a generational curse that we know today. We need to be equipping our children morally, emotionally, and financially for them to truly be stable. So thank you guys so much for jumping on here with us.